Hello, my name is Lorna and I'm one of the ministers at Witham URC. This is a midweek Keeping Connected video. I am the bread of life. That was our theme last week, and it spoke into my daily life in several ways. I'm just going to mention two and then unpack the third a little. Firstly, obviously it made me think of God's provision, which is amazing. But then the downside, why are there then so many people starving or going hungry, even in the UK? Well, of course, it's not the provision. God provides enough. It's the distribution. But secondly, as it was Fair Trade Fortnight, and linking that with God's provision, well, Fair Trade Fortnight should be Fair Trade Home, Fair Trade Church, Fair Trade Town, Fair Trade Country, Fair Trade Life. Not just for us, but for those who provide the goods. But the third line of thought was offered a slightly different tangent. I had looked at a children's video of Moses in the wilderness, which depicted the people grumbling to Moses about being hungry and thirsty. And God provided bread from heaven for them, manna. And it came in profusion. There was no shortage of it. God was specific in his instructions. The people were to gather only what they needed for their household for that day. They were not to keep any for the next day. What happened? Well, of course, human nature being what it is, some people decided that they would save a little bit for the following day, just in case there was none the next day, maybe? I don't know. Not a good idea. The following day, the manna was full of maggots and smelt disgusting. Moses, we are told, was very angry with them for their disobedience and lack of trust in God. God was not impressed either. Then on the sixth day, they were told to gather twice as much. The leaders went to Moses to ask exactly what was happening. I don't know what they asked, but what goes through my mind is, were they meant to eat twice as much that day and fast the next? Or eat rotten manna on the Sabbath? Moses explained, "This is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow will be a day of complete rest, a holy Sabbath, set apart for the Lord. So bake or boil as much as you want today and set aside what is left for tomorrow." The next day, the Sabbath, lo and behold, the leftovers, or as some people would say, the abundance, had absolutely no maggots in it and didn't smell rotten at all either. On that Sabbath day, as you can imagine, some people went out to have a look for manna. Perhaps they hadn't kept any, thinking it'll only go off next time. But there wasn't any to collect. None. Again, Moses is not impressed, and neither was God. God said, "How long will these people refuse to obey my commands and instructions? They must realise that the Sabbath is the Lord's gift to you. That is why he gives you a 2-day supply on the 6th day, so there will be enough for 2 days." This made me think about God's provision for me and his provision generally, because sometimes God provides an abundance, more than I could possibly ever need. But actually other times he provides just enough, a sufficiency, you might say, exactly what I need. It may not be what I think I need, but it is what he knows I need. I'll just explain that a bit. When it comes to my life and his purposes for my life, God provides me with just what I need to know to be able to fulfill those purposes. That's where faith comes in. He tells me and shows me just enough so that I can be reassured of his purposes and indeed of his presence with me, but I have to trust in him, step by step. Lots of charities run in that way. They have enough for what is happening now, but they have to trust in God for his provision for the future. They know that if God calls us to do something, then he provides the resources that we need. And that's not just financial resources, not just the money, but also the human resources, the people and the equipment. It almost certainly won't just fall from heaven like the manna did in the desert. Sometimes it does. People have received cash or a cheque through the letterbox at the time when they most needed it. They have received a phone call just at the time when they were desperate and needed it. They have had a friend turn up on the doorstep just when they needed a friend, or pre-COVID times, a hug. Faith doesn't mean I just sit back and do nothing. Even in those cases where it does fall from heaven, as it were, this provision, there was probably prayer involved, some exertion of faith and trust. Faith isn't just going to sleep and waiting for a miracle. It means being proactive, praying, trying to see the new things that God is doing, as it says in Isaiah, so that we can be involved in them and work with him. When it comes to patience, I most certainly don't have enough. But is that because God hasn't given me enough? No. Much as I might like to think so, patience, like faith, is something we have to nurture and grow. So the reality is I don't exercise and grow the little patience I have intentionally. Of course, I'd much rather wake up one morning and find myself I'm a really patient person. Who wouldn't? But it's just not like that. However, there are definitely times when there is an abundance, more than I could possibly hope for, more than I could use. God blesses me so much and in so many ways. And the song, as the song Goodness of God says, his goodness is running after me. It does indeed. It runs after me and it overtakes me. And the scriptures endorse that. In 1 Corinthians it says, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no mind has imagined what God has prepared for those who love him. So now, of course, I'm singing the goodness of God in my mind. It's going round and round in my head. So rather than inflicting it on you, my singing that is, not the song, it's great, I'll sign off and I'll see you next week. Bless you. Goodbye.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. And all my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You will lead me through the fire, and in darkest night you were close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God, yeah. And all my life you have been faithful. Oh, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of goodness.